Okay, recording in 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to another episode of the Branding Beardos, ladies and gentlemen. Today, our next guest, right? I've actually known him for almost 5 years, and it's been one heck of a tasty friendship. Unlike many others in his field, this new generation Peranakan chef first picked up the craft of cooking from his grandmother and grandfather, then spent time formalizing his culinary education before learning from greats like Forlino's Mario Caramella. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Caramella. Today, he has carved out his own niche as an innovative chef that leads with quality and hits the kitchen of Godmama, a modern Peranakan restaurant. Ladies and gentle beardos, please welcome Chef Frederic Goh.
Hey!
And
our segment, Towkay Talk.
Today, actually, I really want to I only met you 5 years ago when, you were cooking at this, bar opposite my office called TP.
Yep.
But before that, right, I'm very, very curious. How do you end up deciding, hey, I like, this is my life. I want to work in the kitchen. I want to cook.
No, actually quite interesting. I started, I went to IT to study culinary. And what made me, how I decided that was, I don't like to study. I like to be hands-on. So that's why I went to IT lah. So, and then after army, then I started working. I started working in Italian restaurants for about 5 to 6 years.
Mamma mia.
Then the cafe scene came up. Then I thought, okay, time to relax a bit. So I went to the cafe scene and try out lah. And then opportunity came for me to go to be a head chef at TP. And that's where I met Kenneth. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know much about being in the kitchen. How hard is it to go from just cooking in the kitchen?
Before you ask that question, you ask yourself first, do you normally cook Maggie mee at home or not? Kenneth, if you say no, then you really don't know what happens in the kitchen.
I do cook, but then it's a different level when you are cooking in a legit restaurant kitchen, which is why I'm really curious how hard is it actually, right, to go from cooking in the kitchen in a restaurant to being a head chef. What's the difference?
Firstly, the working hours that you must bear. It's since the start, there are various types of shifts. There are split shift, got straight shift. So most of the time, if you go to a fine dining restaurant, it's most of the time doing split shift. So every day you leave home by 8 a.m. You reach home by 11 p.m.
Are you kidding me?
You by the time you wake up, your dad is already out. My dad is already out. By the time I come back, he's already asleep. So I don't see him. So So in the early stage, my dad was quite against it. Yeah, he was, because I don't get to see him. He don't get to see me. So, but after a while, after 2-3 years, when I start to slowly move up the ladder, then things get better. Then when you come to become a head chef, the responsibility is different. The ball game is really all the food quality, the standards, everything is all on you lah. People will look up to you. You have to lead, take charge. Yeah.
So what goes on in the kitchen? Is it very similar to what? Because I remember watching Gordon Ramsay's Boiling Points, where he really up all his stuff. So does that something similar happen, or do you have a tone down, or is it a more Singapore version of all the bad words that come out?
A lot of bad words, but if you tone down is when the kitchen is not open. Usually you go restaurant, open kitchen, right? Yeah. Everything toned down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so for me, always so interesting. Outside, right? It looks like it's so calm and peaceful. You have the people serving you. What would you like to have today, sir? Would you like our Peranakan thing? And then so behind, basically, is
correct.
Maybe you have to cut out that part.
We have to slam table all like that. Yeah.
Push, really push.
But I mean, the working environment in Singapore is better now. Back when I was a trainee, people throwing saucepan and everything. Yeah. But
Wow.
things are better.
Why is it? I mean, what is it
Why?
that sets off a chef like this? Is it? I mean, pressure for sure, because you are trying to push out good quality food. But I mean, what else that triggers you off like that?
Pressure, the heat. Heat is definitely the killer. And then the standards. You really want standards from your team. And if they cannot produce, then you get really frustrated. Because every day you work so long. And you definitely reach your boiling point very easily.
I think so much of what happens in the kitchen, everyone gets it because of watching too much Kitchen Nightmares and watching everything with Gordon Ramsay. They think that every chef is like that. You donkey! But I think in terms of the quality control of stuff, right, you be looking out for the same thing. But would you go up to someone and say, hey, basket, you know this cucumber, your slice are 1 piece 1 inch, the other piece 3 inch. What the hell?
No, I won't. But I guess in a fine dining restaurant, they definitely will go into very, very detail.
So like, it is like, talk about that, right? Like Peranakan food, right? Very, very challenging as a cuisine, right? But it's not just like technique. It's the whole thing is like it's like social ties. Peranakans really put importance into food, right? And like the way you are moving things forward is very non-traditional.
Yeah.
So like, how you create acceptance? How is it? How do you do it?
Yeah, especially those traditional Peranakan come here. What the hell is that?
Yeah lah, what buah keluar pasta all. How?
So at my restaurant we do things. We have on the weekdays we have the modern Peranakan, the traditional Peranakan food, and then on the weekends we have like brunch and all. So on weekends are the more fun part where where the team are more familiar with like open face sandwich, pasta. Is more fun, but how we actually want the older generation to accept is in plating style, more fancier plates. But but
so they like the plating was a bit old fashioned. You're trying to refresh it. You're trying to bring it forward.
Yeah, correct. So the older people will then have to accept. The younger generation will see fancy plate and nice plating or whatsoever. Yeah, like one of our signature, the Otauta Benedict, people see they love it.
So the what I wanted to ask you also, like because a lot of your cooking, your first steps into cooking came from your mom, your grandma, and all that. So what were the big lessons they always reminded you about?
On Peranakan cuisine is patience. You have to be very patient when you cook your rempah. And when you rush, not enough oil, then you'll screw up. And then the final taste, you have to really adjust. Because the flavor always gets saltier and saltier as you simmer it down. So you have to be really very careful with that.
So patience is the big lesson that came from them. But I mean, patience and a bustling restaurant setting is two very different worlds. How do you bring these two things together? You got to be careful, because I know, because Peranakan food, like any other cooking out there, prepare with a lot of love. But then now also you need to also take into consideration the commercial side of things, right? And how do you keep up that standard? Because your food is recognized for high quality.
So how there's vacuum pack machine and all, right? So we make in big batch for our rempah. So we already save time on that. So the restaurant opened at 11, but my first staff, myself and one more guy, will go in at 8 a.m. So that is we actually take like 2 to 3 hours to prepare for lunch, or in fact the whole day. So that is where the patient part comes.
I mean, so everything should just take your time, patience, but also, right, honestly, right, every time I see you, right, or every time I go to a restaurant where you work at, right, you always got something new. Like, I am very surprised lah. Like, how you come out of it in your head so fast, and then how you translate it into action so quickly.
Basically, you just see what you have in the kitchen, and then you just execute. I cannot explain to you how
this one is instinct already lah. Instinct already lah. Like okay.
You just
Very-
see, and then you just create a
very
dish lah.
instinctive kind of.
Yeah, like, because I'm also
Yeah.
wondering about the Otak eggs Benedict, right? I mean, this one, like, how, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
and then with the egg on my nasi lemak, that one I can reconcile that scene. But then to put the into with an eggs Benedict,
Hmm.
what
How
triggered
you- yeah.
what was
How,
the
Jeff?
trick? What was the process that went in through?
How you
your
do
mind?
it, yeah?
How I did it was I used all my previous training, my Italian background, my cafe background. So I combine all this and then made to create this dish lah. Yeah. So we have like guacamole bolognese, laksa pasta. I mean, laksa pasta is everywhere now. Yeah. So we're just trying different stuff. The desserts
like
are the very fun part. Yeah.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. I also
The
do
desserts, so we got 4 desserts now. One is the lychee ginger flower, which we did a collaboration with another friend in a Perry at New Road. Shout out to them. Then, and then I work at a cafe called Locale, which is their signature is sticky date pudding. But then I'm Peranakan, right? So I didn't use the black dates. I used red dates instead.
Wow.
Just a little bit twist and a little bit of Peranakan element into it. And then instead of a thick caramel glaze, I use a longan red date glaze. Yeah. So then you got the Peranakan feel, yeah. Then I've got panna cotta, a coconut panna cotta with pulut hitam. Like after having a heavy meal, a Peranakan meal is very heavy, right? You don't want to have like a full bowl of pulut hitam. Cannot finish.
Yeah. Can't finish.
You end up share. You end up have to share. And then in terms of the guests would order one dessert to share. You want them to spend more also, right?
Yeah.
So I created this dessert, which is a lighter version of it. And then the last one, which is the latest one, which is a champedak creme brulee. Yeah, that one just so happened on the way to work. Then I just thought of it. Then I said, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. But
It's just inspiration and like strokes of genius and building because because I noticed that a lot of the dishes you build upon your previous, you build.
Yeah.
So you really are one of those like builders and inspired chef type.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question, right? The building even goes in the element of building goes into like team building. You know, I noticed really you have a lot of positive energy, a lot of flow, even during circuit breaker. You know, how do you, like, you are a leader lah, basically. Yeah. How do you pass it? How do you pass it to your team in practical terms? Because you have that energy, you have that positivity.
We have to pay salary basically, so we have to push really very hard. And because of this COVID situation, it's not their fault. So we never reduce their salary at all. Yeah. So in that way, we motivate them. We reduce their working hours during CB. Instead of 1 day off, they get 3 days off, and they work 4 days only.
Okay.
And that's how they get. Actually, they have enough rest, and then they get really motivated. Yeah. Yeah.
So you basically just treat them as real human being lah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a different. It's another culture lah.
It's really another culture from what people are used to hearing from lah, right?
Because as a boss, you must be very fair to the team.
Yes.
You cannot just think of yourself. You must think of them first. Yeah.
Right.
Without them, I mati, I die.
Yeah, one person making all the cempedak creme brulee.
Yeah. Rempah already, mati already.
No, but that's quite an interesting thing, because I mean the F&B scene took such a, I mean, it's still getting hit right now, and for you not to be so reactive and straight away, okay, retrench and I cut salary immediately. I mean that speaks volumes.
Yeah. That really speaks volumes of like the management and how you guys think about leadership and running a company.
We have a very young team, so they're all very, very motivated. Yeah. So they are a very great team, I I must thank them for through this whole CB period. Yeah.
Okay, this part we keep. Then we just cut out this part. Then we just keep replaying. To your
Just to
team.
remind people.
But the sad truth is a lot of, I mean, this part you cut lah. I just want to share
If it's good enough, we
Yes, tell us more. Tell us more.
Tell.
there are some
Go ahead.
restaurants that cut manpower, reduce the staff salary, even with the government support of 75%. I'm like, it's very unfair. It's very unfair. Like the government support you, but you cut the staff salary. I'm like, yeah, very unfair. Loose job. There are some, and some restaurants, the teams are very good. They go on unpaid leave willingly. Yeah, the staff volunteer themselves. And I'm like, wow, that's something. That's something different. Yeah,
that's true.
So how has since the whole COVID mess? I mean, how has business been? I mean, we know that everywhere is bad, but how badly hit, if you are badly hit at all, have you been since COVID?
We have been badly hit since February. Our sales dropped by 70%.
Wow.
And then came April, it dropped by I think 80%. Yeah. But thanks all the support through all the support and the grants and everything, we managed to pull through April, May and June. Yeah. And then July, when everything started again, business picked back up by 50%. Yeah. And August looking very good now. Yeah.
That's good news.
So hopefully we can reach back to where we were last year.
So this is again another reminder out there to our listeners. This is the guy whose restaurant basically went down to a 80% hit in his takings, and still kept the full team of staff on the full
salary. Yeah.
And using the JSS for what it was meant to be, and is to keep the people,
keep the staff employed.
Because there are a lot of stories. I mean, at the first onset
too many
of problems, right? I'm like, within the first couple of weeks, you're basically chopping the 85% of your workforce already within the first couple of weeks, I mean, I always wondered to myself, I'm not talking about restaurants, but like, you mean you don't have faith in your business that you just chop one shot? No, 85%, you just cull them like that so easily. For me, is the shocking part is how easily that was done. Yeah, I know you might say, it's not as easy as it sounds. It was very difficult, but to cull 85% just within the first 2 weeks of circuit breaker, for me that's shocking.
That's shocking also because I think it's shocking to us because there's a real human cost to retrenchment.
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad that restaurant owners and restaurateurs like yourself, Fred, are actually willing to recognize that and then do your best to keep the staff and keep going with them. Because it's not that easy. In fact, restaurants are really one of the hardest F&B. It's really one of the hardest industries to survive in.
Yeah, the rental and the manpower are the killer.
Yeah, rental and manpower are killers.
Yeah.
And when you don't have revenue, it adds up really fast. Then at that point there's no way to save the business. It's not marketing, it's not what. So you really have to have a cool head, and you really have to dare to tahan.
Yeah.
What was on your mind, like the one thing that you wanted to ensure that you needed to maintain? What was the most important thing, even with the circuit breaker and all the shit happening? What was the one thing that you said, this thing I must still follow?
Definitely the team, and then the food standard was next. Yeah, and the moment they announced a lockdown, immediately we created a menu for delivery. So to move as fast. So I think one day after, on the second day of CB, we launched our delivery platform.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. It was a very tough call. Yeah, because you have to move everything very fast. Yeah.
I remember I ordered, right? I remember I ordered from Godmama, and it was like that that day, and I did a pre-Mother's, was it Father's Day or Mother's Day? I can't. I think it was Father's Day. I did a pre-Mother's Day because I knew that Mother's Day would be crazy. And true enough, he was slammed. Then he had this video on Instagram where it was just like bags. He just shot through the entire restaurant. It was just lined with bags ready to go.
We had like 60 orders for lunch, and then another like 90 orders for dinner.
Oh man!
And it's throughout the day. You never stop. The only time you stop is maybe 3 to 4. But that 3 to 4, everybody take turn to eat. But then we just continuing to cook and cook.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, but it's very fun. It's very good fun. It's like it reminds us of our opening, because
it's true blood and sweat and tears. Really true blood, sweat and tears. Yeah.
By the end of the day, you just look at the thing and well done, guys, you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You feel accomplished at the end of the day.
There's not enough frozen rempah to deal with all that, man.
Yeah, man. All right.
So last question.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to go back in time and talk to yourself like 10 years ago, what will you tell? What will you tell the person?
As in what? Tell me.
Yeah, tell yourself. Tell yourself.
If 10 years ago, this one you must edit out. Don't be a chef.
Hey, this one keep. This one's funny. Damn funny.
Stay home, be a Thai or something like that.
Because
I don't like this question. How to answer? Oh, I should push harder.
That's so good though. Like, don't be a chef.
How you want me to answer 10 years ago?
That's good. I like the answer.
Not like sign on the army or what?
Sign on the army.
Yeah, be an inject in the army now. But there are times like I wonder whether should I continue being a chef? Should I just stop everything and then move to a different line? In some time I think about 6 years ago, I wanted to study events. But I think, is it worth it? To start all over again. I'm like, not young anymore, so just continue. But this is where I am now, man. Yeah, I must say.
Yeah, you stuck with your first love, right? And you got this far, and it's not easy to get this far. Many people don't.
Yeah.
So I'm truly grateful, because at least I know that in Singapore there are a few chefs that I can go to definitely where I get like good quality food. I know I'm not being fat junk, you know. Thank you, Fred. Thank you for cooking for all of us, and thank you for the time that you took out for this interview.
Thank you.
And make sure that the next big event that comes, make sure that his restaurant is slammed even more with orders, so he can take more pictures.
So please Google Godmama, and like they're on Instagram. Just Google Godmama and you'll find them. Please follow and like and share. And follow,
I never know where is the
subscribe, and just like be supportive of local chefs, like great local chefs like Fred lah. Oh.
Yeah, and cempedak creme brulee, man, baby.
Yeah, man.
I think you need it soon.
I think I need it. It's becoming an obsession now already. Until the next episode of the Branding Beardos, this is Big John, Kenneth, and Frederic, all of us signing off for episode 19.